Is it working?
No.
There you go.
Does that work?
Yes.
Does this work?
Yes.
My name is Judy Buck. I'm a board member of the Roosevelt Island Community Coalition. I want to thank Cornell for responding to many of our community requests in education and other areas, and this exploration of alternatives to the trucking of materials and to the other construction issues that are so urgent to us. We also thank the members of Community Board 8 for coming to Roosevelt Island tonight. And with all due respect, we make a request. We ask that you take a close look at this community before you vote on how the Cornell project will progress. Our fear is that some board members are unfamiliar with Roosevelt Island and will approach Cornell as just another Manhattan development project. But in fact, although Roosevelt Island is part of Manhattan, we're unlike any other Manhattan community. Obviously, we're an island connected to the mainland by the F train, the tram, and a bridge to Queens. Owned by New York City, leased to New York State, we're the sole Manhattan community that receives no money from the state, minimal support from the city, and must rely on residential and retail rents for its maintenance. We're a small town that not only has, but uses a road called Main Street, a modest two-lane affair that carries all the island's traffic. We are unofficially known as Asthma Alley, a place with poor air quality and a high percentage of susceptible children, senior citizens, and disabled. We are a community of many vulnerabilities in our infrastructure, our financial structure, and our population. And we need a protective presence. We ask Community Board 8 to be especially aware and vigilant as you vote on an undertaking that will forever change life on Roosevelt Island. We further request that your vote take place on December 19th in New York City to allow time for Cornell to answer questions raised by their response to the November 26th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm speaking for Dr. Eva Bosch-Bach. She is a RERA council member, representative for Southtown, as well as coordinator of the Roosevelt Island Parents Network and leader of the Island Children's Baby Group. I support the solution of transport for most of the construction material for the planned new Cornell Tech campus by barges. Let me explain why I would like to ask you to give special thought to the hundreds of babies and small children who spend their day on Roosevelt Island and don't leave the island like many others for their day. They will be around all the time during the building of the Cornell Technion campus and will have to breathe whatever the demolition, material, and transport and construction of the site will produce. They will also hear whatever noise will be accompanied by. Clearly, barging of all the necessary materials would be the most sensible option, especially given the parallel construction of the new Southtown buildings. Also, please use some of the project money for more playgrounds and some indoor play spaces donated from Cornell for the children of Roosevelt Island residents and for the children of future Cornell faculty and students. They could be built anywhere on the island, allowing moms in the future Cornell housing to venture there and get to know the island. And they could be on Cornell campus, but please, open and accessible to everyone. Or in the new South Point Park, which invites to building a playground or a coffee house. Finally, a pedestrian access to the 59th Street Bridge, elevator and stairs leading to the pedestrian and bike lane would be another thing that would both benefit the Roosevelt Island residents and especially moms with strollers and the bikers and facilities and students from Cornell could profit. Thank you very much on behalf of Dr. Eva Bosch.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next speaker we have is Teresa Monfont. Yes. Yeah. Followed by Joyce Minchep, followed by Adek Applebaum.
I want to talk about mitigation.
Speak into the mic, please.
I want to talk about mitigation. We request from the Community Board to hold off on the approval until Cornell and their team present to Roosevelt Island residents acceptable solutions to the unmitigated issues. I don't believe this should be negotiable. Traffic analysis. Cornell didn't see the need to do the analysis, but we are the ones who see the problem today and who will live it in the future during construction and after the completion of the project. So if we believe that this subject is an issue to Roosevelt Island, they have the responsibility to prove to us otherwise. My recommendation is to hold off on the approval until Cornell does due diligent analysis and simulation in this subject and be presented to Roosevelt Island residents. The explosive. The answer was not comforting because the existing fragmented rock is 5 feet thick and can be found 3 to 20 feet below existing grade. If the plan is to construct at minimum 2 levels of garage below grade, that means the excavation will go at minimum 5 feet and as much as 20 feet or more into the hard rock. Now, mechanical method is good, but it's long, it takes very long, and it might not be feasible or cost effective. Now, Cornell might realize that, and they might change the approach and proceed with other means like explosive. Again, I recommend to hold off on the approval until they demonstrate to us their concept design and the basis of their assumption. Is it 2 minutes? I have one more item, but that's okay.
Thank you. Joyce Minchett, followed by Adek Applebaum, followed by Robin Lynn. Okay, yeah, but we can leave a copy of that, what you have that's left, and we'll take that. Okay, thank you.
Hi, folks. I'm Joyce Minchett, and I'm on board for the Roosevelt Island Coalition, Community Coalition, and we certainly appreciate all the efforts that CBA is making toward our protection here. And I'm sure that you often hear that a community that you're trying to protect is unique, but truly Roosevelt Island, because we're an island, that's one unique aspect of our island. I don't know how many communities you go into that really abounded with quarries throughout the space, and particularly in the area that's going to be developed. We had a penitentiary here in 1839. John Bowen was arrested and convicted of stealing a basket, and he did 3 months breaking rock on Blackwell's Island. By 1879, all of the quarries on Roosevelt Island had been depleted. They built the penitentiary with it, which was a massive structure. All the riprap around the island comes from the quarries. And subsequently, the quarries were filled. And if the quarries were filled in a traditional manner, they were filled with what's called fly ash, which has been found to be extremely toxic and carcinogenic. So we really need your concern in addressing the special mitigations that have to be done to ensure that the community doesn't get exposed to carcinogenic substance in this construction. Also, the other thing that's unique, Judy alluded to, and that's that we don't have tax money here that supports what protects us in the way of our public safety department. All of our facilities are covered by our land leases here, and Cornell will not be paying a land lease or a pilot. They will be almost increasing our population by about 50%, which means that we have to increase the services for people in order just to keep them safe here in this community. And so we really need your help in recognizing that something has to be done here to add to the services in this community for police protection and other things.
Thank you. Nick Applebaum, followed by Ron Lynn, followed by, what is it, Brian Bass McCleary. Did I get that right this time? Okay.
For those who have not seen me before, my name is Adam. I'm an engineer with about 60 years probably of construction management experience. And because of that, Christina, as well as April Ward, got me involved in reviewing the construction itself. I am totally for the building of the campus, but I do not want to see it as in a confrontation form. Rather, I would like to see it cooperation rather than this confrontation, which I can see, based on the impact statement, has a great potential and a great potential for disagreements. So we reviewed those 3 or 4 chapters on construction alone and prepared about 200 or so comments. And my recommendation and request is that those comments be submitted as a separate entity, a separate document, because it's too extensive to be compared to all the other minor impacts to the island. So again, this is not repeating what that format was, but very extensive, and I see a lot of problems, potential problems. So let's submit that as a separate document. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin Lynn.
Hi, I'm Robin, and I am representing myself. I'm a 30-year resident of Roosevelt Island, and I look forward to the completion, the beginning and the completion of the Cornell campus. I'm looking forward to being on the open spaces of the Cornell campus, and I think that space is only open if it's also agreeable and amenable and has amenities. And I guess what I'm saying is, you go onto the campus, but without facilities, without bathroom facilities, you're really going to be just passing through it. And my impression is that that is something that shouldn't be overlooked if we're really meant to be on an open campus and on open spaces. And then as for the question of how a large institution like Cornell can help the community, again, as it relates to open spaces, as we pass through that open campus, and many people will continue to come to the Louis Kahn Memorial, there is a dearth of security at the memorial, particularly in the evenings. That's nothing I want to go into in greater depth, except that if the Cornell institution is looking to help the community, they could see the open spaces as being beyond their 2.5 acres and also extending all the way down to the tip, where the students will certainly be enjoying the new memorial.
Thank you. Brian. Followed by Eric Marcus, followed by Mickey Rinley.
It's Bryn.
No, Rinley. Okay, I'll get
With me.
it.
I wanted to speak about public safety. I joined RERA after the big debate about the tasers, and I wanted to mention that I had a compromise that I thought would be good for the increased population that's going to come with the huge campus and dorms and hotel and the 3 new buildings that are going on Roosevelt Island, and that would be a K-9 unit. I know that there are a large population here that is very much against weapons in the way of firearms and tasers and any kind of protection whatsoever for our public safety. However, even David in the Bible had a slingshot and 5 stones. And the thought of these public safety officers answering calls such as domestic violence, drugs, rape, and other violent crimes without any protection whatsoever seems inappropriate. When I was working as an APO in Manhattan, we had a blackout, and there was a big debate on whether the auxiliaries were going to be allowed to go into the projects to help, and they said absolutely not, because we were not armed. was way too dangerous for us. Our public safety officers are not armed at all. And I wanted to mention that there was a documentary on public television in California many years ago where they did interviews with thousands and thousands of prisoners in the jail who had committed crimes of anywhere from rape to murder to armed robbery. 90% of the thousands of prisoners that they interviewed said that they would rather face a weapon, a knife, a gun, or an alarm system than to face a dog, because the dogs were more dangerous to them, more unpredictable, and they would choose a different person or a different house. When my daughters were taking care of dogs, we had a black lab that lived downstairs, and he had died in a fire, and the firemen had given him CPR and brought him back to life. Every time the fire engine went by the house and he would hear the siren, he would take the 2 cats that he lived with, rescue them, and take them outside on the patio. And I really believe the K-9 unit isn't compromised for weapons.
Thank you. Thank you, Corinne.
Okay.
You're at Marcus, and then Mickey Riddler, and then Lisa Knox.
Thank you. My name is Lloyd Marcus, and I've been a resident on this island for the past 28 years. Raised my kids here, moved from a couple of buildings on the island, so I know it pretty well. So to all the voters, you're going to vote on our destiny. You're going to vote actually not only on zoning a campus, but actually on the life of this community. And I'm asking you to take it very, very carefully and really consider all the questions that are put by us. I believe that most island residents are very excited to have such a project of this magnitude in our backyard. And it should be approved. This is an amazing project that's going to be happening. But it should be approved after all the questions are answered and all the problems that were brought up are resolved. So we don't want to really become the project's backyard. And it did happen. It did happen in Ithaca, New York, when the project upstate New York opened. Ithaca, the town, was neglected and it died. And we know people that went there and they can testify to that. So we don't want it to happen right here in New York City. Our questions are really about safety, health, and the quality of life. And we do deserve solutions. Some of the issues that we brought up, according to the answers that I saw on the answer sheet were either dismissed, they were ignored, or they were labeled as needing mitigations, which is really not good enough to take such an important vote. I'll give you some examples. One is barging. So the answer in the answer sheet was, we are considering feasibility. It's really not about the feasibility, it's really about the health, it's about people's life on this island. I do have other examples, but...
All right, well, we'll let you finish up real quick.
Okay.
One more, and then we'll...
Okay. The other one was about flooding. So we asked to reinforce the promenade, the seawall, and the answer was that the campus would be elevated. I mean, is this really good enough? So the people by the promenade are going to walk during the flood and drown, while whoever is going to make it and huddle on top of the campus will be surviving. The other one is about extra construction. What's going to happen on this island when extra construction will be going on, such as in Southtown? And the answer was no mitigation. This has to be mitigated. So all I'm asking you is please consider our lives here. This is very important as much as the campus is. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Followed by Lisa Knox, followed by Jonathan, I believe it's Calvin.
So I'm Mickey Riddler, I'm a Bureau County Council member, and I reviewed the transportation section of the environmental impact statement report. I spoke at one of the previous meetings. I'll just focus on a few areas that I think are still deficient in the DEIS report. First, traffic. You've heard already that there will be significant impact during construction. We don't know how much that is, it depends on the parking. But also, after the full build-out, we'll require 2 traffic signals on the island. That's a significant impact to us. And if you look carefully at the report, you'll see that there's going to be major delays getting on and off the island, even after the traffic signals are there, which means there'll be backup traffic even without a simulated traffic model, which they didn't bother to do. There'll be backup of traffic on Main Street, on the bridges, etc. during peak hours. And what I would like Cornell to say is that they would consider, if this proves to be a problem, which is hard to predict, they would consider creative solutions such as staggering work hours or making sure that classes are distributed throughout the day so the traffic may be not as great at peak hour. They also say in the EIS report that there's no doubt to be a significant impact on our tram and our subway. We believe that some of these numbers are underestimated, but it is true that it is the new buildings that are being built on the island that will contribute much more than Cornell will. However, the AM peak subways traffic will increase by 63%, and there is a recent CUNY study which just to summarize, whenever right now, whenever a train is late, the wait times go up to more than 10 minutes to get on a train. Their final conclusion, given the small margin of error on which the system currently operates, islanders will experience recurrent capacity problems in the future if no action is taken. Clearly, the BIS report didn't reach the right conclusion, and they should, I should say they will work with the community to lobby the MTA and the city to find solutions for the inevitable subway overcrowding, and will provide advice to REOC to help the train run as efficiently as possible. I have others, but
Okay, thank you. Lisa Knox, followed by Jonathan, is it Calkin? And then followed by Monica Dow.
Hi, my name is Lisa Knox. I was a Supreme Court 8 member for a few years. I'm also a 25-year resident of Roosevelt Island, raised 4 kids here. And I'm the vice president of the Roosevelt Landings Residents Association, a 1,000 apartment building on the east side of the island. I'm in favor of the project, only with independent environmental analysis and joinder. In reading the DEIS on air quality and also the hazmat section, I came away with the following thoughts and concerns. Foremost is my concern that, contrary to the DEIS, which stated the decision not to factor in background pollution, I suggest the use of actual local environmental data to assess current conditions and plan for improved air quality. Given that the power plant, Alice, admits to being currently ozone non-compliant in a recent permit request as of August 2012, that is non-compliant. And the DEP attachment to the DEIS identifies toxic site soil, and that's only one tested, 10 borings, I think, with actually the same content as what comes out of the stacks over at the power plant. Anyway, it behooves us to plan with that in mind, not out of mind. So I'm urging that we really move in the direction of considering background pollution. Roosevelt Island is in a vortex underneath the 59th Street Bridge, the Edcott Bridge, excuse me, and of course right next to the power plant, which spews forth constantly. So why not share the data on the existing sensors that you mentioned? There's a chart in the DEIS, I'll just wrap it up. There's a chart in the DEIS that refers to existing sensors but puts no information out about them. The only reference to readings are at LaGuardia Airport, downtown Manhattan and so on. Anyway, I could go on. I produced a document which includes all of the charts and the information that I referred to here, and I hope that you get a chance to look at it. I'm really concerned about air quality, so keep it in mind.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan? Followed by Monica Dow, followed by Dave Evans.
I'm Jonathan Calkin, I'm co-chair of the Roosevelt Island Community Coalition. I just want to bring your attention to one of the parts of the resolution which is a little bit unusual. We actually would request that there is actually more parking spaces, possibly a minimum of 500 parking spaces on the Cornell campus. One of the reasons that we like this is Roosevelt Island is very unique. We only have one street on the island, and most of the parking spaces that are utilized, there's only about 120 parking spaces on the street. And we need those spaces to drop stuff off, to pick stuff up, to have a very successful retail area. One of the things that happens, because we don't have a lot of parking spaces on the island, when people don't have parking spaces, what they do is they double park, which stops our entire island. Because if someone double parks, the red bus can't get by. So we're making an unusual request to actually have more parking spaces on the Cornell campus. It's unusual because most areas in New York City don't make this kind of request, but because of our unique circumstances, we ask that you have minimum parking spaces, at least about 500 parking spaces on the Cornell campus. We expect the Cornell campus to be successful. We expect their hotel to have conventions and all that kind of stuff, and we don't want the runoff to, especially on July 4th and a lot of conventions right now, a lot of events on the island. Motorcade gets filled up already, and so we don't want that to be made much worse both on the street and in the parking garage. And then secondly, I'll just quickly say that if you can make a very strong resolution for both Cornell and for EDC, who funds the East River Ferry, to make a ferry dock on Roosevelt Island, we definitely need it. We definitely welcome Cornell coming here and the added population that's going to come here and the students that are going to come from the different parts of the city. But we really need ferry service, and we actually put a strong resolution in favor of it.
Thank you. Monica Dow, followed by Dave Evans, followed by Mark Lyon.
I'm speaking on behalf of Monica Dow, Natural Resources. To mitigate the effect of the project of the protection of our wildlife, which includes great egrets, night herons, and peregrine falcons, I would like to request that the project developers and administrators work closely with the Cornell Lab of Ornithology and the Cornell Extension Office during all phases of the project, including construction and build-out. Monica Dow. And I donate the rest of my time to Linda later.
Dave Evans? Dave Evans? Dave? This is like an Academy Award speaking on behalf of go ahead. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Dave Evans, obviously, not Dave Evans. Dave is concerned about energy-related issues, and he said basically as to the energy-related question on record that he put forth to Cornell, that Cornell's mention of it in the DEIS, he indicated that I noted that Cornell's response was cleverly worded to give at most the appearance of a commitment related to the island, as it stated. Cornell's commitment to maximizing energy efficiency and using renewable energy generated on-site is consistent with other initiatives and would not preclude the energy-related strategic initiatives of the island's wire buildings, Kohler Hospital's continuing use of steam, or the supplementation of an energy plan for the island. I was pleased that there was an effort to respond, but given that statement, I would hope this moves us closer to a full and definitive commitment from Cornell to actively participate in the development and implementation of a comprehensive modern-day energy plan for the island. Finally, I believe the island community will benefit from feedback on a reasonably regular basis from Cornell, and to date, appreciate the efforts to interact with and respond to the island's coalition. And I donate the rest of my space to Linda Heimer.
Okay. Mark Lyon, Linda Heimer, and then Jennifer Hensley.
On behalf of talk about the concrete plant. If Cornell is not willing to consider a concrete plant or believe that setting one up on site would be too difficult, then I would hope that CB8 Manhattan would find that they are not taking adequate steps to mitigate the construction impact. Such plants have been readily installed on far smaller job sites, and having one would allow barging of raw materials instead of trucking. Further, if they look toward the other developers who will be building on the island at the same time, they will be able to find even further increases to utilize a cement plant on site. There's a luxury of a large staging area in the 12.5 acres on campus, which would be beneficial to having something on site. I believe Cornell's estimates on parking and reliance on public transit, while at the same time claiming no impact on the transit, is disingenuous. There should be required to fully document their assumptions in generating traffic figures and in their calculations of already available parking. Further, the zoning should require 500 spaces, not 0 to 500 spaces. If Cornell does not intend to build a combined heat and power plant or other cogeneration facilities, why have they been pushing for the high-pressure gas service? If they are not going to construct such a facility, they should remove the same from the DEIS. In the table 13.2, it does not state that residential air conditioning water usage is included, and there's a lot of specific stats here that I'm not going to say. I'll turn it in. And last, the zoning should not be designed to contemplate a Cornell takeover of the non-leased premises once REOC's lease ends in 2068. The rezoning should be restricted only to the areas Cornell will lease from the New York City, not to land already leased areas to other entities. Assuming Cornell takeover of REOC property in 2068 creates significant concerns among the Roosevelt Island community, and that the REOC lease will not be renewed, particularly since Cornell is receiving their land under far more favorable terms, including the option to purchase than REOC did. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Linda? And I'm gonna, Linda, a couple of people said they wanted to give you some. I'll give you 3 minutes, okay? You need it.
Some people relinquish time to me, so I need to. 2 people relinquish.
Well, just do your best.
I'll read fast. I'll read very fast.
They didn't relinquish the whole amount, so I'm saying
okay.
3. We'll try to keep it within that.
I want to thank CBA for your consideration of the needs of this wonderful community. I'm a 32-year resident. I've been a community activist for 22 years of the 32 because I'm very concerned with maintaining, as well, of course, as improving the character and unique quality of life on the island. I'm a founding member of the Roosevelt Island Community Coalition. We've been working for almost a year to find out what different organizations on the island are concerned about, and 35 of them have joined us. And as a board member, I've had the opportunity to meet with several key Cornell executives to discuss our concerns, and I want to thank them for the fast turnaround to many of our queries and for their willingness to meet with us. At the November 26th meeting of the task force, I suggested Cornell appoint a lead contact person who could reach with questions and complaints during the demolition and construction process. We're pleased that Cornell has agreed to that. I also asked that they fund an independent consultant to monitor progress and adherence to agreements reached between Cornell, RIC, CBA, City Council, and similar entities. And we realize there are laws and regulations in place to ostensibly monitor adherence, but unless a professional points out that there are violations, we probably wouldn't know. I was pleased to learn tonight, I think Andrew mentioned this evening, that there'll be an independent monitor during the demolition process, but I hope that will also extend to the construction process. We also asked them to work with an advisory board that RIC will establish, comprised of RIC members, engineers, other professionals well-versed in development and community dialogue into the future. Cornell has complained that RIC keeps adding to our list of requests, and while I understand their frustration about that, it's very recent that we suggest an ongoing relationship through an advisory board because we can't anticipate every problem or concern that are going to arise, and we need a mechanism to deal with that. For example, we actively request that they not encroach on any more land than what they've been given. And I'm surprised that we said that. And the reason that we did was that the Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt Institute built a fence on land that was not given to them, on our land, and so it made us aware that that can happen, and we asked them to take that fence down. We also requested that Cornell use their influence to ask the MTA, which is planning a new bus route from Williamsburg to Long Island City, to extend it to Roosevelt Island. We just learned about this, and we thought it would benefit Cornell students and faculty as well as our island community. So the purpose of those requests was to minimize problems, herald successes to the community, and ensure a mutually rewarding ongoing relationship. Now, the reason why I've been asking for a little extra time is because I'm the last speaker representing RIC, and I want to summarize our stance. We welcome Cornell Tech as an outstanding educational institution and a neighbor. We are dismayed, however, that almost all of our requests that Cornell has agreed to are restricted to what they see as their mission, which of course is education. It's our position, however, that Cornell's new population is going to frequent Main Street retail establishments, use our facilities and schools, and join some of our organizations. It makes sense to support those organizations and infrastructure as the population grows. Cornell has access to tremendous resources, both intellectual and financial. And as other developers before Cornell have contributed to the growth and prosperity of the community, we expect the same from Cornell. We in no way expect Cornell to fix everything on the island, of course, but we do want the campus to integrate with our unique community and support positive improvements. Our requests to Cornell are clear. Consider our health, don't add to the poor air quality that already exists here by using diesel-burning trucks and limit removal of toxic substances to barging so Main Street is not exposed to them. 2, make provisions to keep us safe. 3, fix what you break, damage, or destroy. 4, be a good neighbor by contributing to the community to compensate us for the 25-year period of noise, traffic, air pollution, and inconvenience. In short, make us feel we are better off due to your presence, not forgetting that you chose to move here with your campus. And our requests for CBA are also clear. We're not professionals. We are volunteers who spend a tremendous amount of time trying to learn what the community wants and needs, and what the community wants and needs, and about the ULA process. I was encouraged at the CBA task force meeting on December 4th because it seemed that the board was truly concerned with protecting our interests. I was discouraged at the meeting 2 nights ago because it seems that the ULA process restricted what you consider on our behalf. We have also learned that our council member Jessica Lappin is restricted in what she can support us on. So when do we get our needs addressed? My understanding is that community boards exist primarily to protect the neighborhoods and residents they represent. RIC board members feel a very strong responsibility to 35 organizations that have trusted us to advocate for them. We are therefore in favor of approving the Cornell New York Tech project if our needs are met. Please, in your deliberations about each point in the resolution that you will be voting on, ask yourselves, will the community be protected by this and improved by Cornell Tech's presence here, or are we asking residents to give up a way of life that they have so fastidiously worked towards guarding and preserving? Thank you.
And we have Jennifer Hensley. And then you're followed by Don Chesley and then Heather Taylor.
Good evening. I'm Jen Hensley. I'm a resident from just across the bridge in Astoria, and I'm also the executive director of the Association for a Better New York, an advocacy group in New York City. We're 42 years old. And I'm also a former community board 1 member. I worked on the redevelopment of Lower Manhattan after 9/11, and I understand the importance of ensuring that communities are protected during construction periods and redevelopment and changes. I've also been involved in cultivating the tech sector in New York City, and I want to remind the board tonight that this project is critical to the long-term viability of New York City. It will create the jobs of the future that will drive our new economy. Cornell has a strong reputation for being a great neighbor in communities throughout New York City where they run programs, and I will join with you in ensuring that they're a good neighbor here on Roosevelt Island. And of course in Astoria, Queens too, as that's going to be an avenue for a lot of the traffic. So tonight I urge you to support the project, to continue the dialogue with Cornell, and to really thank you for what you're doing on behalf of New York City. Again, this is a really critical project for our economy, for jobs, for students, and I know being on a community board is hard work, and so thank you. As a neighbor and friend, I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Thank you very much. Don Chesney, followed by Heather Taylor. Going once for Don, going twice. Okay. And then Heather Taylor. Heather, are you here, Heather? Going once, going twice. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to what we call the executive session of the board, and the board's going to have a number of questions, I'm sure. And just so the board understands what the task force did and has been doing, essentially what you have in front of you from the task force is a draft report. It is not a resolution. There was no vote that was taken. But the idea was to address, number one, the land use issues that are being brought up tonight, but also to address the community concerns that were raised throughout the series of meetings that we had. And then also, there was a response that was given by Cornell, which we included because we wanted to make sure that where they committed to something, we put that in the record as well as what they agreed to do. I also want to thank several people on that task force put a significant amount of work into drafting this. Larry Parness did an excellent job working through the land use issues and spending a lot of time on this. So I want to thank him. Jeffrey Escobar also put a lot of work into it. I appreciate that. And Ellen Polly, where's Ellen? Ellen, where are you? There you are. And I appreciate the work that you did in having to turn things around. So anyway, that's what you have.